The Whispering Dock, an aged structure jutting into the murky waters of the Bayou, seemed to breathe with the gentle rise of mist curling in its weather planks. Twilight draped the area in soft, ethereal hues, illuminating the intricate patterns in the shallow waters beneath, where fish dot like fleeting memories. Overhead, ancient cypress trees loomed, their moss-draped limbs swaying softly in the warm, humid breeze, as if whispering secrets long forgotten. Kale and Umbra stood at the dock edge, their lean, muscular frame silhouetted against the fading light, a tattered cloak billowed behind them. The faint creaking of the wooden structure underfoot echoed the tempest within, each wave of nostalgia washing over them, a reminder of lost opportunities and the heavy weight of their past actions. Kalen's fingers brushed against the rough wood of the railing, grounding them as they stared into the still surface of the bayou. The water reflected not only overhanging trees but also the shadows of memories swirling in their mind. Moments of laughter with a lost friend, the glint of sunlight on a blade before it fell into darkness. Each image struck Aka's soft blow, each regret pulsing in rhythm with the croak of distant frogs. "If only I could turn back time," they whispered into the thickening air, the sound barely above the rustle of leaves. Yet, as the last light of the day slipped away, a flicker of hope ignited within them, like fireflies dancing just beyond reach. The air was saturated with the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves, a reminder of the cycle of life and death that the bayou embodied. As the mist thickened, enveloping the dock in a shroud of mystery, Killing recalled the words of the Knowledge Keeper, urging them to confront their past rather than flee from it. But the weight of their scar, a jagged reminder of the conflict that had set them on this path, pulled them back, a chain of guilt that threatened to drown any glimmer of hope. "I will not let fear bind me." Not again, they resolved, clenching their fists against the railing, feeling the coarse wood bite into their palms. A sudden gust rattled the branches above, sending a flurry of moss cascading into the water, stirring the stillness. Kalen inhaled sharply, the sharp scent of wet wood and moss filling their lungs as they contemplated their next steps. They could almost hear the echoes of the townsfolk whispers, skepticism shadowing their every move since returning to the bayou. "You can't change what done," they muttered under their breath, yet the spark within them refused to extinguish. The Knowledge Keeper was waiting, and with each passing second the urgency of their mission grew. "I must act, for their sake. For mine." With a final defiant glance at the water, Kalen stepped back from the edge, their heart racing with determination. The weight of their past still pressed heavily, but a new feeling began to unfurl within them. A determination to embrace their flaws and forge ahead. The mist swirled over them, obscuring the path forward, yet somehow it felt less suffocating. As the first stars blinked into existence above, they made a silent vow to seek the Knowledge Keeper, to reclaim their purpose in the bayou. The evening air carried whispers of change, and Kalen, with their hearts set on redemption, took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. As they turned away from the Whispering Dock, the mist cloaked Kalen in its embrace, shielding them from the past while promising new beginnings. Each step felt lighter, buoyed by the hope that flared within. A small flame ignited amidst shadows. The path to the Knowledge Keeper lay ahead, winding through the bayou, twisted roots and dark waters, a journey fraught with uncertainty. Yet, with the scent of damp earth and the sound of rustling leaves echoing in their ears, Kalen knew they would walk alone. The whispers of the bayou were now their allies. Determined to seek redemption, they plunged forward into the deepening twilight, ready to confront whatever awaited them. As they stepped back from the Whispering Dock, Kalen felt the mist curl around them, shielding their past while promising new beginnings. Each step felt lighter, buoyed by the hope that flickered within. A small flame ignited amidst shadows. The path to the Knowledge Keeper lay ahead, winding through the bayou, twisted roots and dark waters, a journey fraught with uncertainty. Yet, with the scent of damp earth and the sound of rustling leaves echoing in their ears, Kalen knew they would walk alone. The whispers of the bayou were now their allies. With a heart set on redemption, they took a deep breath and prepared to step into the unknown. With purpose, Kalen moved forward, ready to embrace the challenges ahead and confront whatever awaited them in the shadows of the bayou. The evening air was thick with the scent of wet earth and distant echoes of the bayou, igniting a fire of determination within Kalen to protect what mattered most. Nestled among towering cypress trees draped in moss, the Knowledge Keeper cottage stood humble, yet resolute, its weather-red walls cradling countless stories. The air was thick with the fragrant scent of damp earth and wild herbs, while the distant call of a heron pierced the tranquil evening, harmonizing with the soft rustle of leaves. Kalen Umbra approached, their hearts steeped pep in trepidation, the leather armor creaking softly as they moved. The golden light of dusk filtered through the branches, casting dappled shadows on the worn path, amplifying the urgency in Kalen's chest. They had heard whispers of the mentor Ifrite, but the suffocating silence enveloping the cottage hinted at a truth more profound than mere illness. Leaning close, Kalen whispered a prayer to the spirits of the bayou, steeling themselves for the encounter ahead. Inside, the cottage was dim, lit only by flickering candles, casting erratic shadows that danced on the walls. Edric Clement lay nestled in a quilt, his once vibrant eyes now dulled, flickering like the waning flame before extinction. The air felt heavy with the memories of long-forgotten tales, the laughter, the lessons, the warmth of connection. When Kalen knelt beside it, the frail mentoran lips parted in a slow, labored whisper. "Kalen, my time is fading, but the stories, they must not be lost. You must gather the community. They need to hear the truth before it too late." The urgency in his voice ignited a fire within Kalen. Kalen's heart raced at the weight of Edric's words. But wow, the townsfolk, they doubt me, they see me as a failure. How would I convince them to listen? The self-doubt turned to storm inside, but the mentor grip tightened around their wrist, steady and reassuring. "You carry their history in your veins, child. Stand tall. Speak from the heart. Let them see your passion, your resolve. That is the key to reviving our legacy." Edric's breath wheezed, each word a fragile thread beating past to present, urging Kalen to recognize the strength they possessed. With each whispered truth, Kalen felt the weight of their own past, the scars of failure and loss, begin to lift slightly. They nodded, determination blooming amid the encroaching shadows. "I will gather the people. I will remind them of the stories that shaped us. But I cannot do it alone, Edric. I need your guidance, even if it is but a flicker of your presence. You must help it spark the flame within them." Kalen's voice trembled, a mix of anxiety and fierce resolve, their fingers brushing against the worn quilt, feeling the life that still pulsed beneath. The weight of responsibility settled upon their shoulders, but the Knowledge Keeper presence filled them with hope. Edric's eyes flickered with a spark of understanding, and he nodded weakly, a faint smile ghosting his lips. "Then go, Kalen. Let the whispers of the bayou guide you. Let the roots of our history ground you. Remember, it is your time to weave the stories anew." As Kalen rose, a swell of emotions threatened to overwhelm them. Fear, anger, and profound determination melded into a singular purpose. With one last glance at the fading figure of Edric, they vowed to return with the just help, but the community at heart. The world dayed felt different as they stepped into the twilight, the evening air charged with possibility, the weight of their resolve heavy yet invigorating. They were no longer just a wanderer seeking redemption. They were now a keeper of stories, ready to ignite a legacy that refused to dim. As Kalen moved through the thickening shadows of the bayou, they could almost hear the echoes of the stories swirling around them, a chorus of voices urging them forward. The path twisted like the roots of the ancient trees, and with each step their resolve solidified. The community awaited them, skeptical yet yearning for hope, and Kalen knew they had to prove their worth, not just to them, but to themselves. The urgent whispers of the Knowledge Keeper linger in their mind, a beacon to follow. They would gather the resources, rally the townsfolk, and perhaps, in doing so, find a piece of themselves they had long thought lost. The night was alive with possibility, and Kalen would falter. Tomorrow, they would rise to confront the challenges ahead, a warrior reborn. The lavish office of Edric Clement loomed like a fortress of opulence within the heart of the city, its walls lined with dark wood that gleamed under the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. Richly woven carpets muffled the sound of footsteps, while the air held a faint scent of cigars and expensive cologne, mingling uncomfortably with the metallic undertone of power and corruption. Kalen Umbra stood at the threshold, their heart pounding a war drum, a jagged scar slicing across their cheek, a testament to battles fought. Dressed in practical leather armor, Kalen shifted their weight, the tattered cloak catching a breath of air, a reminder of the bayou haunting beauty contrasting the stark luxury from them. With green eyes aflame with determination, Kalen stepped forward, feeling the weight of the world and the legacy of the Knowledge Keeper suspended in the air between them and the man who had twisted so many lives with a mere smirk. Edric Clement sat behind a massive mahogany desk, the surface strewn with papers and baubles, each glinting like a jewel under the chandelier light. As Kalen approached, he leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled, a patronizing smile spreading across his face. "What brings you to my humble abode, Kalen?" "Come to beg for scraps of knowledge." His voice dripped with arrogance, a challenge hanging in the air. Kalen drew in a breath, the scent of polished leather and cigar smoke filling their lungs, and steadied their resolve. "I'm here to demand answers, Edric." The threats to the Knowledge Keeper legacy. "Oh, are you to toy with that?" Kalen voice quivered at the edges, a tremor that belied the courage boiling within. They leaned closer, fists clenched, the leather of their gauntlets creaking softly. "You can't silence the past. It will haunt you as it haunts me." Edric chuckled, a low rumble that filled the spacious room, the sound dripping with condescension. "Haunt me? My dear, it's the past that whispers to the weak. I am the one who shapes the future. You would do well to remember that. Your concerns are trifles to me, mere echoes of a fading legacy." His eyes glinted like shards of ice, threatening and calculating. He leaned forward, the veneer of charm cracking to reveal the predator beneath. Kalen felt the air thicken, a heavy silence pressing down as Edric's words slither through the room. They stood their ground, drawing strength from the ancient ties to the Knowledge Keeper that pulsed in their veins. "You underestimate the resolve of those who fight for what matters. I will not be intimidated, not by you or your wealth." With that, Kalen turned sharply, the soft leather of their shoes whispering against the carpet. They strode toward the door, heart racing but resolve steeled against the looming darkness, threatening their mission. Kalen pushed through the heavy door, its ornate surface cool against their palm, and stepped back into the stark reality of the world Dode. The echoes of Edric's laughter faded behind them, yet the shadows of his threats linger in their mind. The night air wrapped around them like a cloak, cool and refreshing, carrying the scent of wet earth and distant echoes of the bayou. Within the depths of their heart, a fire ignited, a determination to expose the truth and protect the legacy that meant everything. They had been dismissed, but the encounter only stoked the embers of rebellion within. As they walked away from the fortress of corruption, Kalen's footsteps quickened, each step a pledge to return, armed not only with knowledge, but with an army of the forgotten and the brave. Tomorrow, they would rally the townsfolk, ignite the flames of hope, and confront the tyrant who dared to manipulate them. The town square thrummed with anxious energy, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and the distant tang of smoke from cooking fires. Sunlight streamed through the swaying branches of neighboring trees, dappling the cobblestones with golden patches, while a murmur of restless voices echoed against the backdrop of a sprawling old oak that had witnessed generations of whispered secrets. Kalen Umbra stood on a makeshift platform, their leather armor catching the light, a stark contrast to the tattered cloak that fluttered like a banner of defiance. With determination etched across their deep green eyes, they glanced at the crowd faces lined with skepticism, uncertainty flickering like shadows in the corners of their expressions. Beside them, Edric Clement, the wise mentor, observed the scene with a stoic gaze, his salt and pepper hair catching the light, the subtle nod of his head indicating both support and concern for the storm brewing among the townsfolk. "We cannot let fear silence us." Kalen's voice rose above the crowd, raw and impassioned. As they spoke, their hands gestured emphatically, the motion mirroring the urgency in their heart. The Knowledge Keeper is our last thread to the past. If we allow it to fade into obscurity, we are lost. A ripple of doubt threaded through the fed listeners. Their murmurs rose louder. A woman near the front shook her head, her brow furrowed, and called out, and what of the official? If we stand against him, we risk everything." Kalen and Hart sank for a moment, but they clenched their fists, refusing to be swayed by despair. What is everything worth if we lose ourselves? A low rumble of dissent rolled through the crowd, punctuated by a man's voice, deep and apprehensive. "We've seen what happens to those who dare to challenge him, Kalen. You're young, you don't know the price of defiance." Edric stepped forward, his presence commanding, eyes narrowing as he fixed the man with a steady gaze. "And you think submission is the safer path?"
If we don't rally for our heritage now, when will we?
Will we wait until it is too late? The tension in the square thickened, a palpable force that hung in the air like the humidity before a storm. Townsfolk exchanged furtive glances, weighing their fears against the flicker of hope in Kalen's voice. Kalen, sensing the wavering resolve, stepped to the edge of the platform, leaning slightly forward. "I stand then not just for the Keeper, but for all of us who have forgotten how to dream." Their voice trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of generations behind them. "We must embrace our stories, or risk being swallowed by silence. Together, we can spark a change that echoes through time. Join mine, and let our voices rise." The crowd hesitated, caught between inspiration and the suffocating grip of the official looming shadow. The air thick with the scent of sweat and tension, a silent battle of wills. Edric glanced sidelong at Kalen, his heart swelling with pride mingled with worry. The whispers grew louder, but he knew that doubt had taken root. As Kalen's plea hung in the air, a flicker of resolve kindled in some eyes, yet the majority remained paralyzed by fear.
Kalen's voice broke through the murmur, sharp as a knife. "You're asking us to risk our livelihoods."
What if the official wrath falls upon us? The weight of that question settled like a stone in Kalen's gut, yet they refused to yield. What is at stake is not merely our safety, but our very identity." They shouted, voice breaking with fervor. But as the crowd began to disperse, the seeds of doubt planted firmly in their minds. Kalen felt the chasm of despair widen. Edric placed a steadying hand on Kalen's shoulder, the reassuring warmth a balm against the chill of uncertainty. The crowd scattered, leaving behind a lingering tension like the stillness before the storm. As Kalen watched them retreat, their heart raced, knowing that tomorrow would demand more than just words. It would require courage, a reckoning with both the official who ruled and the shadows lurking within their own fears. The official office loomed ahead, an imposing fortress of dark wood and gilded accents, its walls adorned with symbols of power that whispered of authority and subjugation. Rich tapestries, embroidered with the insignia of the regime, hung its sentinels, absorbing the light from a solitary, flickering candle. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment and polished leather, mixing with the faint tint of something metallic that sent a shiver down Kalen's spine. Dressed in practical leather armor that hugged their lean, muscular frame, Kalen stepped through the heavy oak door, their heart pound beat if it were an et of the storm brewing outside. They had come to confront Edric Clement, the man who held the fate of their community in his hands, and with each step, desperation stoked the fire of their resolve. Edric sat reclined in his grand chair, an island of authority amidst the chaos of his cluttered desk, and Kalen entered, the corners of his mouth twisted upward in a menacing grin. "Well, look who decided to grace me with their presence," he drawled. The smoothness of his voice contrasted sharply with the steel of his gaze. He leaned forward, steepling his fingers like a conductor, prepared to orchestrate a symphony of intimidation. "You must know the consequences of your little adventures in the Bayou, Kalen. A place sick that can swallow you whole, much like your precious knowledge keeper, if you continue to meddle in affairs beyond your understanding." Kalen's throat tightened, each word a weight pressing down upon their chest. They clenched their fists, the jagged scar on their cheek throbbing as memories of failure claw at their resolve. "I won't let you take them, Edric. People look to me for hope, and I will fight for that hope, even against you," they barked, their voice quivering like a sapling in a tempest. The defiance sparked a flash of amusement in Edric's eyes, as if he were savoring the taste of Kalen's stubbornness. Bravery is admirable, but it could also be foolish. "Do you truly think you can stand against the tide?"
"I have resources, influence. I could make your life quite
"Complicated," he countered, his tone dripping with casual menace. Kalen's breath quickened, the weight of Edric's threats sinking in like a stone in still water. They took a step, a visceral reaction stirring within them, a primal instinct to flee. The office, with its shadowy corners and looming trappings of authority, felt suddenly claustrophobic. But if the very walls were closing in, eager to smother any flicker of rebellion. "You may have power, but this isn't just about you anymore," they replied, striving for strength, but hearing the quaver in their own voice. Edric's smile widened, an et of victory that turned Kalen's stomach, and they turned on their heel, their pulse a frantic drumbeat of retreat. The echoes of their footsteps bounced off the walls, mingling with the dark laughter that followed them out. As Kalen stepped back into the dim light of the corridor, the chill of defeat clawed at their insides, a stark reminder of the official looming presence. The air aide whispered the secrets of the Bayou, but the weight of Edric's intimidation clung to them like a shroud. They pressed Anne against the cool stone wall, breathing in deeply as the scents of earth and moss filled their lungs, grounding them in the chaos. Tomorrow would bring a reckoning, not just with Edric, but within themselves. Kalen would have to confront their fears if they were to rise against the shadows that threatened to swallow their community whole. The world day the office was bathed in the waning light of day, The Bayou whispers now a cacophony of uncertainty that mirrored the turmoil within. Kalen paused, heart racing and resolve shaken, as they took in the murky waters reflecting the last hues of twilight. With a determined breath, they fed on the path ahead, knowing that the battle was not just against Edric tyranny, but against the deeper shadows of their own insecurities. Tomorrow would be a retreat. It would be a fight for hope, a struggle to reclaim what was lost, and the first step towards a destiny they had almost forgotten they could reach. The warehouse lay hidden amidst the dense foliage of the bayou, a dark silhouette against the backdrop of gnarled cypress trees. Inside, flickering shadows danced upon walls lined with crates and barrels, their surfaces slick with humidity, and the faint scent of damp earth clung to the air. Kalen Umbra, clad in their practical leather armor, moved like a wraith through the narrow aisles, the rustle of their tattered cloak whispering secrets as they surveyed the meager supplies. Each breath felt heavy with anticipation, the weight of their mission pressed against their chest. They were determined to gather what they could to aid the Knowledge Keeper, their heart racing, caught between hope and dread, as the murmur of the bayou seemed to eat their own fears. Kalen reached for a crate marked with faded red paint, its contents promising the tools they desperately needed. Just as their fingers brushed against the wood, a sound sliced through the stillness, shuffling footsteps, muffled yet unmistakable. Kalen froze, their pulse quickening, the familiar chill of danger creeping up their spine, a warning from the cypress trees as they peered toward the corner, barely daring to breathe, and caught a glimpse of autumn-king figures in dark uniforms. Edric and forces had arrived, their presence a storm cloud threatening to engulf Kalen's fragile resolve. "Get moving!"
One of the enforcers barked, his voice a low growl as he gestured toward the unloading zone, where supplies had been carelessly stacked.
"We don't have all night to play hide-and-seek." Panic surged through Kalen's veins. They had to escape, to protect, not just themselves, but the Knowledge Keeper for hope for the future. In one fluid motion, they turned, heart pound, and sprint deeper into the maze of crates, each step echoing an urgent prayer for safety. Splitama, another enforcer, shouted. The sound of footsteps soared louder as Kalen dashed between the towering stacks. The dim light painted eerie shadows on the walls, and Kalen and mind raced, strategizing their next move. They could hear the enforcers closing in, their heavy boots thudding against the wooden floor. A relentless countdown. With every heartbeat, the space around them felt smaller, the air thicker. Kalen skidded to a halt at a dead end, the glint of a metal pipe catching their eye. A weapon, perhaps? But before they could seize it, a hand shot out, gripping their arm like iron, pulling them back into the suffocating darkness. A growl rumbled from the enforcer, his breath hot against Kalen's ear as he laughed with mockery. "Thought you could outsmart us? You're just a kid, playing hero in a world that doesn't want you. You're trapped now, like a rat in a cage." Kalen's heart sank as they struggled against the grip, the weight of defeat crashing down at the humid air around them. The warehouse, once a sanctuary of hope, had transformed into a prison, and the sound of the bayou out faded into an ominous silence. As the enforcer tightened his hold, Kalen felt the jagged scar on their cheek burn, a reminder of their past mistakes, of battles lost and lives unfulfilled. The flickering lights cast a cruel shadow over their resolve, leaving them breathless, not from the chase, but from the suffocating realization of their vulnerability. Just then, a crash reverberated from the far side of the warehouse, breaking the tension. Edric enforcers turned, eyes darting an opportunity, however slim, had presented itself. Kalen breath hitch, knowing their next choice could either seal their fate or ignite their fight for redemption. Would they seize this fleeting moment, or remain forever ensnared by their own fears? The whispering dock stretched out like a forgotten finger into the bayou murky depths, where shadows danced under the silvery sheen of the moonlight. Cypress trees, ancient sentinels draped in ghostly moss, swayed rhythmically in the night breeze, their creaking limbs whispering secrets to the still waters below. Kalen sat on the bank, their leather armor cool against their skin, a heavy cloak billowing softly around them, carrying the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. The gentle lapping of the water mingled with the distant call of a night heron, yet it was the silence within that echoed loudest. As they stared into the shimmering depths, the jagged scar across their cheek seemed to throb with the weight of the day regrets, the chill of doubt settling in their bones. Would they find the courage to break free from the chains of their past? Kalen's fingers fiddled with the beads in their braid, each one a tether to memories better left unexamined. They replayed the moment of hesitation in the clearing when Edric enforcers had turned their way, eyes glinting like knives. "I could have done something, should have done something," they muttered, the words lost to the wind, but the guilt clung to them like a damp cloak. The moonlight shimmered on the surface, mocking their inaction, and they dug their nails into the earth, feeling the cool soil beneath their fingertips. The weight of their past mistakes pressed down like the thick humidity in the air, almost suffocating in its intensity. A sudden splash broke the stillness, a frog leaping from a lily pad, and Kalen flinched, heart racing as fear intertwined with frustration. "You can't keep letting fear rule you, Kalen," they whispered fiercely to themselves, shaking their head as if to dislodge the thoughts that wrapped around their mind. Each failure coiled tighter, threatening to drown the faint flicker of hope that remained. They could almost hear the voice of the Knowledge Keeper, urging them to act, to rise from the shadows of doubt. But how could they step into the light when every step echoed their failures? The Bayou, with its labyrinth of intertwining roots and hidden pathways, seemed to reflect Kalen's own tumultuous journey. The soft glow of fireflies flickered in the darkness, illuminating the path ahead in sporadic bursts of light. "Maybe it's too late," they sighed, the admission tasting bitter on their tongue, mingling with the faint scent of jasmine that floated on the breeze. But just as despair threatened to engulf them, a thought emerged from the depths of their mind, a fleeting image of the Knowledge Keeper, steadfast and unwavering. They couldn't let the darkness win, not for them, not for the community that still believed in them. The weight of the past was heavy, but perhaps it could also be a catalyst for change, not just a burden. "I will not be defined by my mistakes," Kalen resolved, their heart racing now not from fear, but a burgeoning determination that cut through the fog of doubt. As the night deepened, and the stars twinkled like scattered diamonds in the vast velvety sky, Kalen took a deep breath, the cool air filling their lungs with a resolve that felt electric. They rose slowly, brushing the damp earth from their hands, a sense of clarity washing over them like the gentle tide of the bayou. No longer would they hide behind guilt, they would confront their fears head-on. With a final glance at the shimmering waters, Kalen stepped away from the bank, heart racing with possibilities, ready to carve a new path forward. The moon cast a silver glow on their determined face, illuminating the way ahead. But the true journey had just begun. Would they finally find the strength to reclaim their destiny and confront Edric Rezenthi and Jaquanu? Would they finally find the strength to reclaim their destiny and confront Edric Rezenthi and Jaquanu? The night held its breath as Kalen ventured back into the shadows, a warrior reborn. Under the flickering light of oil lamps, the official resource depot buzzed with a mix of hope and trepidation, shadows flickering like ghosts against the weather walls. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and spilled oil, mingling with the whispers of townsfolk drawn together in a desperate search for support. Kalen Umbra stood at the edge of the gathering, the jagged scar on their cheek a stark reminder of battles fought and losses borne. Clad in practical leather armor and a tattered cloak that billowed gently in the warm bayou breeze, they listened intently, the tight knot of anxiety in their stomach unwinding as they observed the townsfolk faces. Each expression told a story of despair, accentuated by the warm glow illuminating the false confidence of Edric Clement, the stocky official who commanded the room, with a slick salt and pepper hairstyle, slick gap, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Edric stood at the front, arms crossed, as though he owned the space and everything in it. Now, this is a fine gathering. His voice boomed, rich and oily, dripping with feigned charisma. It's time we discuss the distribution of our resources. I assure you, I'm looking out for your best interests. The townsfolk shifted, their eyes darting to one another, uncertainty etched into their features. Kalen could feel the weight of the room pressing down on their shoulders. They could no longer stay silent. The injustice swelled within them, like a tide ready to crash. They stepped forward, a heartbeat echoing in their ears, rising to meet Edric's gaze. And what of those who haven't enough to eat? What of the children? Edric's gaze narrowed, lips curling into a sneer.
Kalen, dear, we all have our roles to play.
I have to keep the community running, which means making tough decisions. You wouldn't want to upset the delicate balance, now would you? He delivered the words with condescending air, as if speaking to a child. Kalen's fists clenched at their sides, a surge of anger rising like steam from a pot about to boil over. The sight of the townsfolk, their eyes downcast and faces hollow, ignited a fire within them. Delicate balance, Kalen's voice trembled with restraint, fighting to rise above the murmurs of dissent. It not balance when the scales are tipped against us. The crowd perked up, some exchanging glances, a flicker of hope igniting in the dimness. The tension in the room snapped like a taut wire. Edric's eyes flashed with indignation, the warmth of his earlier bravado evaporating.
You're walking a fine line, Kalen.
You think you could rally these people against me? They need guidance, not rebellion, of a verbitio parpit. But Kalen refused to back down, each heartbeat fueling their resolve. They need truth, Edric. You can't hoard everything while we starve. The murmurs rose to a crescendo, voices intertwining, and for the first time Kalen felt the power of unity, the embers of a collective resistance beginning to spark. Kalen's chest swelled with a mix of fear and determination, their heart pound as they faced the gathering. A voice rose from the crowd, a weather-rare woman with silver hair framing her face like a halo of wisdom.
Kalen speaks rightly.
What about our children, Edric? What about the future? The question reverberated through the space, igniting a wave of affirmation. Kalen's heart raced. They had touched something deep, something that could not be easily snuffed out. As the crowd began to swell around them, Kalen knew this was only the beginning. The air crackled with potential, the weight of change hanging heavy as they prepared to lead their neighbors through the storm ahead. Edric's expression twisted into a mask of fury, but Kalen barely registered it, their gaze fixed on the faces of their neighbors, now alight with newfound courage. The murky waters of the bayou surged beneath the docks, echoing the stirring of defiance within the crowd. Kalen inhaled the mingled scents of damp earth and hope, the pulse of the community resonating through their veins. This was not the end, but the beginning of an uprising. The night sky loomed overhead, a vast canvas of stars, and in that moment, Kalen felt the mantle of leadership settle upon their shoulders. They would let Edric's greed dictate their fate. They turned to the crowd, voice steady and unwavering, ready to guide them into the fight against the encroaching darkness that threatened their very existence. The whispering dock lay shrouded in the twilight haze, its creaking wooden planks whispering secrets to the still murky waters below. Ancient cypress trees loomed overhead, their gnarled branches draped in ghostly moss, swaying gently, if nodding in agreement to the clandestine nature of the gathering. The air was thick with the earthy scent of damp soil and decaying leaves, mingling with the sweet, musty smell of the bayou. Kale and Umbra stepped onto the dock, their heart racing, a mixture of determination and trepidation coursing through them. Clad in practical leather armor adorned with intricate patterns, the tattered cloak fluttered behind them like a banner of defiance. As they approached the small gathering of rebels, the gravity of their mission loomed large, a palpable tension settling among them like the humid air. Edric Clement, his salt and pepper hair slicked back, stood at the forefront, his stocky fey radiating authority.
We can't waste time debating methods, Calum.
We need action. The longer we wait, the more they tighten their grip on our people. His voice was a low rumble, reverberating against the backdrop of rustling leaves. The air crackled with impatience, each word igniting a spark among the That rebels, who shifted restlessly as they absorbed the weight of his conviction. Kalen clenched their fists, feeling the jagged scar on their cheek burn with the weight of their past, yet they stood firm, finding strength in their resolve. And what kind of action, Edric? Charge in blindly? That will only lead to more bloodshed. We must unite our philosophies, not divide them further. Their voice rang with authority, yet beneath it lay an undercurrent of fear that threatened to unravel their carefully constructed facade. The murmurs of dissent grew louder, echoing the conflict brewing within the group. A younger rebel, a fiery woman named Mira, injected, her dark hair tumbling over her shoulders as she stepped forward. Kalen, right? We can't afford to lose sight of our values. If we become like them, what are we fighting for? Her eyes sparked with a fervor that captivated some, but her words also ignited Edric ire. Idealism won't save us. The enemy doesn't play by rules. In slammed a fist into his palm, his frustration palpable as the tension in the air thickened like the encroaching fog. Kalen's gaze swept over the group, feeling the weight of their conflicting emotions. Desperation claw at their throat, they could all hear the whispers of the Bayou, urging them to find middle ground. We could blend our methods, they offered, voice steady despite the tempest within. We need a plan that honors our values but also prepares us to act decisively. We can be both brave and just. The words hung in the air, a tentative bridge between the two factions. Silence fell, punctuated only by the distant croaking of frogs and the rustling of leaves, a moment suspended in the tension of possibilities. Closing Porticrat. As the last 8 of Kalen words faded, a hesitant stillness settled over the group, the weight of potential unity resting heavily upon them. Edric's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering behind his fierce gaze, while Mira's fierce spirit seemed momentarily quelled. Kalen took a deep breath, the scent of damp earth and moss mingling with the scent of impending rain, promising change. A flicker of hope ignited within them. Perhaps this was the turning point. They knew they had to act swiftly to maintain this fragile thread of camaraderie. With steely resolve, they finally spoke, the air around them electric with anticipation. We meet again at dawn. No more division. Own unity will see us through. As the other rebels nodded reluctantly, Kalen felt a surge of determination swell within, knowing the real battle was just beginning, both against the enemy and within their own ranks. The town square bristled with an electric energy, the air thick with anticipation as storm clouds seethed overhead, casting the cobblestones in a muted gray. Lanterns flickered into life, illuminating anxious faces, their various expressions mirroring the turbulent sky. Kalen Umbra stood at the center, clad in practical leather armor that hugged their lean, muscular frame. The tattered cloak billowed around them, like a silent banner of resolve, the jagged scar on their cheek a testament to battles fought and lost. As thunder rumbled in the distance, Kalen felt the weight of their community's hopes pressing down. Like the oppressive humidity, a fierce determination igniting within their deep green eyes that seemed to reflect the very storm brewing above. Edric Clement approached, his stocky figure cutting through the crowd, a bastion of authority amidst the uncertainty. His salt and pepper hair gleamed in the lantern light, giving him an air of gravitas. "Kalen," he began, his voice low but firm, carrying the wisdom of years as he placed a hand on their shoulder. "This fight will demand more than just courage. It will demand sacrifice. Are you prepared for that?" Kalen clenched their fists, feeling the rough leather beneath their fingers, the calluses a reminder of their commitment.
I can't back down now, Edric.
"Not when everything we've fought for is at stake." Edric studied them, his gaze piercing yet filled with an understanding forged from his own battles. "I've seen many brave souls charge into the fray, but courage without caution is a flame that burns too bright. You must weigh the cost of your choices. The legacy of the Knowledge Keeper is not just about victory, it's about the lives we protect and the lives that may be lost. You need to remember that. You are not alone in this. We need each other to prevail," he urged, his voice thick with a folly concern. Kalen felt the weight of his words crash against their resolve, a flicker of doubt surfacing. But it was quickly quelled by a surge of defiance. "I'll carry that weight, and I'll fight for every eye that depends on us," they declared, their voice steady, echoing the growing thunder overhead. As the clouds roiled above, dark and mesmerizing, Kalen could feel the murmurs of their fellow townsfolk brushing against their skin like a soft wind. They stood on the precipice of something monumental, the legacy of the Knowledge Keeper swirling in their mind like the storm round them. With a full breath, they stepped forward, determination anchoring their resolve. "Our time is now. We fight not just for survival, but for the future of our community." Their words sliced through the tension, igniting a spark of hope, and Edric nodded in approval, sensing the shift. In that moment, Kalen felt their past losses meld with their present purpose, filling them with a fierce strength. The storm was no longer a harbinger of doom, but a companion to their cause, each rumble resonating within the depths of their being. As they turned to face the crowd, the weight of their journey behind them, Kalen knew this was just the beginning. They would falter, they would forge ahead, ready to face whatever darkness awaited, courage lighting their path. Like the first strike of lightning against the night sky. As the first drops of rain began to fall, a steady patter against the cobblestones. A collective breath filled the square, each person waiting, poised for the confrontation that would page their fate. Kalen, at the center of it all, raised their voice above the whispers, a beacon in the encroaching storm.
Let them come.
"We shall rise together for the Knowledge Keeper, for our future." Their hearts surged with every beat, a battle hymn against the tempest brewing both in the sky and within their hearts. They were ready, but as the winds howled, a shadow moved in the corner of their vision, a figure cloaked in darkness. The final showdown was upon them, and with it the weight of every decision they had made. The whispering dock jutted into the bayou, its weather-laden planks creaking softly underfoot, as twilight cast a violet hue across the still murky waters. Shadows of ancient cypress trees loomed overhead, their gnarled branches draped with hanging moss that swayed eerily in the humid breeze. A palpable tension hung in the air, thick as the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. Kalen Umbra stood at the end of the dock, clad in practical leather armor that glistened faintly in the fading light, their deep green eyes scanning the dead faces of allies, each reflecting a mix of fear and determination. The weight of the Knowledge Keeper plight pressed down on their shoulders, yet among the whispers of the bayou, hope flickered, ready to ignite. "We can't let them take the Keeper from us." Kalen's voice cut through the hushed murmurs, fierce determination igniting within them. The dead allies shifted nervously, exchanging glances that spoke volumes, a cocktail of fear and fierce loyalty. Edric Clement, stocky and imposing, stepped forward, his salt and pepper hair catching the last glow of daylight.
You talk of fighting, Kalen, but you must know the risks.
"The official men won't hesitate to crush us. We need a plan, not just bravado." Kalen clenched their fists, the jagged scar on their cheek taut as they resisted the urge to snap back. They glanced at the murky waters lapping at the dock edges, recalling the tales of the Knowledge Keeper, their culture, their history, all at stake. "If we don't stand and now, we lose everything we fought for. I won't let fear dictate our choices any longer." The conviction in their voice reverberated through the gathering, sparking courage among their comrades. Just then, the wise mentor, Mabel, emerged from the gathering shadows. Her silver hair cascaded like a waterfall down her back, a figure of calm amidst the storm. "Listen closely, dear ones," she began, her voice like the soothing rustle of leaves. "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the will to act in spite of it. Kalen, your heart beats with the rhythm of this bayou. Let it guide your words, and your allies shall follow. Remember, every whisper in the wind carries the strength of generations. Use that to fuel your resolve." Kalen felt warmth surge as Mabel's gaze locked onto theirs, the old woman eyes sparkling with wisdom and compassion. They inhaled sharply, the sense of damp wood and rich earth flooding their senses, reinvigorating their spirit. "Together, we will protect our legacy. We will confront his darkness head-on." With that declaration, a collective shudder of agreement rippled through the group, each ally straightening their posture, ready to face the impending storm together. As the last rays of sunlight dipped below the horizon, the gathering transformed into a battleground of spirits, each person resolved to forge a path forward. Kalen stood at the forefront, heart racing with newfound purpose, the weight of their past still pressing but no longer paralyzing. The murky waters whispered secrets of the bayou, their reflections mingling with the shadows of doubt that had once lingered. They knew the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but in this moment, surrounded by steadfast allies, they felt fierce determination rise within. With a nod to Edric and a reassuring smile to Mabel, Kalen took a deep breath, ready to plunge into the night, where destiny awaited beneath the surface of the waters. From this moment, they would no longer be a mere observer in their own story. They would be the one who led the charge, the one who fought for their people and the knowledge that bound them together. They were ready to embrace their destiny, no matter the cost. The opulent office exuded an air of privilege that felt almost foreign to Kalen, a stark contrast to the impoverished community that languished below. Tall windows framed a panoramic view of the shimmering bayou, where the sun-dying light spun golden threads across the murky waters, yet the beauty deepened the ache within their chest. Rich mahogany furniture, polished to a shine, adorned with gaudy trinkets and portraits of smirking ancestors, clashed with the earthy simplicity Kalen cherished. As they stepped across the plush carpet, the weight of their purpose surged through them. This was not just a confrontation with Edric Clement. It was a reckoning for every whispered tore and lost memory. The Knowledge Keeper guarded. A battle for the soul of a community that had long silenced. Edric lounged behind his desk, a figure of confident authority. His salt and pepper hair, slicked back, a smug smile twisting his lips. He appraised Kalen. You think you can just storm in here and make demands?
You've been feasting on dreams long enough, child.
It time to face reality. The words dripped with disdain, each syllable a deliberate jab meant to provoke. Kalen felt the heat of their anger rise, tightening their grip on the hilt of their dagger, hidden beneath the folds of their cloak. They wouldn't back down. Reality? Is that what you call stealing from those who have nothing? Kalen's voice trembled, but their resolve stood firm, at the ancient cypress tree's sides. As Kalen stepped close, the air thickened with unspoken history, the weight of their shared past hanging at the humidity in the room. You've manipulated our culture for profit, Edric. I won't let you destroy what little we have left. Edric questioned her, a flicker of anger crossing his features.
What you go destruction, I kai progress.
You're too naive to see the bigger picture, Kalen. You should be grateful I've allowed you to remain so close to the Knowledge Keeper at heart. The tension crackled, the world outside fading into insignificance ode. Their childhood rivalry boiled to the surface, yet Kalen couldn't afford to falter now. The confrontation escalated, voices rising with the heat of emotions. Kalen lunged forward, fists clenched, driven by righteous fury. Edric stood, towering and imposing, and when their bodies collided, the air shattered with the impact. Kalen's heart pounded, fueled by adrenaline, the scent of leather and sweat mixing with the faint mustiness of the room. Every blow exchanged was not just physical, it was a battle for identity and survival. They fought with everything they had, the jagged scar on Kalen's cheek a bitter reminder of past losses, urging them on. With a fierce grunt, they shoved Edric back, momentarily staggering him, and the smile evaporated from Edric's face, replaced by a snarl of rage. Kalen, breathless and resolute, prepared for what came next. The confrontation stripped away layers of pretense, revealing the raw truth beneath this. Was not merely about cultural preservation, but a fight against the oppression that had long gripped their community. The clash of ideals lay heavy in the air, a potent symbol of the battle for their heritage. As Kalen steadied themselves, they met Edric's furious gaze, sensing the shift in power between them. Whatever happened next would shape their destiny and that of the Knowledge Keeper. It would be no turning back. With fists still clenched, Kalen's heart thundered as they watched Edric's expression morph from anger to suspicion. The tension hung like a noose, and in the stillness, a new resolve crystallized in Kalen's mind. They had stepped across a line, igniting a fire that could either consume or illuminate the path forward. Just as Edric seemed ready to retaliate, a noise sounded from the hallway, a sudden scuffle, whispers of footsteps approaching. Kalen's eyes narrowed, realization dawning that this confrontation had drawn more than just the two of them. Support was on the way. Their fight had only just begun. The twilight sky draped the bayou in hues of indigo and gold as the last vestiges of sunlight flickered out like embers fading to ash. Shadows stretched long across the whispering dock, where the air was thick with the earthy scent of damp wood and decaying leaves. Kalen Umbra knelt on the muddy shore, breath ragged and heart-pound, their leather armor glistening with sweat and grime. The haunting whispers of the cypress trees wrapped around them, a chorus of nature reflecting their tumultuous emotions. They had fought fiercely, the battle raging like a tempest within, and now the weary weight of victory settled heavily upon their shoulders. A bittersweet burden knew the Knowledge Keeper, bruised yet alive, lay nearby, a testament to the cost of their struggle. A soft rustle broke the silence as Kalen's allies emerged from the underbrush, their faces illuminated by the dimming light. Telia, her dark hair tousled and streak-hued knelt beside Kalen, her eyes wide with a mixture of admiration and concern.
You did it, Kaylin!
You saved them, she exclaimed, her voice trembling. But Kaylin could only nod, the ache in their body matching the weight of their heart. It was a hollow victory, and the weight of it pressed against their chest like a stone. They stole a glance at the Knowledge Keeper, who met their gaze with a pained yet grateful smile, a flicker of resilience beneath the scars of battle. Edric, the imposing figure of their group, stepped forward, his salt and pepper hair catching the last rays of dusk. "We couldn't have done this without you, Kaylin," he said, his deep voice echoing against the stillness. But even as he praised them, Kaylin could see the shadows of grief lurking behind his eyes. The aftermath of their struggle hung thick in the air, like the fog creeping off the bayou. It was not just the Knowledge Keeper who bore the scars, they all were marked by the conflict, a collective weight of loss and survival that bound them together. As the last light faded, Kaylin's heart twisted at the sight of their allies, faces illuminated by the flickering flames of their campfire, a fragile symbol of hope amidst the darkness. Victory felt surreal, an elusive phantom that danced just out of reach. They breathed in the humid air, tasting the bitter tang of iron on their lips, a reminder of the fight they had waged. The Knowledge Keeper's gentle voice broke through their thoughts. "You've changed the course of our fate, Kaylin. But be wary, this path is not without its own shadows." Their words hung in the air, heavy with implications that sent a shiver down Kaylin's spine. Kaylin turned their gaze to the horizon, where the last remnants of twilight surrendered to the night. With a shuddering breath, they acknowledged the truth within their own heart. They were irrevocably transformed. That victory, hard-won and tarnished, marked the end of a chapter they had desperately sought to conclude, and the unsettling beginning of another, teeming with uncertainties, yet to unfold. As Kaylin gripped the damp earth beneath them, the weight of their newfound responsibility pressed down like the oppressive humidity of the bayou. They had emerged victorious, yet the victory felt like a veil draped over a deeper wound, one that would heal easily. The flicker of the campfire cast ghostly shadows across the faces of their allies, each etched with a myriad of emotions, relief, grief, and a wary hope. They were alive, but at what cost? Kaylin's heart raced with the understanding that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges yet unseen, and their resolve would be tested anew. As night descended, enveloping them in its dark embrace, they felt a stirring within, a call to courage, a vow to protect not just the Knowledge Keeper, but all they held dear in this fragile world. As dawn broke over the community, a soft golden light filtered through the swaying cypress trees, casting dappled shadows upon the lush greenery that cradled the heart of the village. The air was thick with the sweet scent of damp earth and wildflowers, mingling with the faint earthy aroma of the bayou just beyond the verdant canopy. Kaylin Umbra stood at the center of the gathering, their leather armor fitted snugly against a lean, muscular frame. A tattered cloak billowed gently in the breeze. The jagged scar on their cheek caught the early light, a reminder of the battles fought and burdens borne. Around them, community members' faces lined with expectation and curiosity formed a semicircle, their expressions a mix of hope and skepticism, eager to hear not just the words, but the weight of Kaylin journey woven into them. The silence deepened as Kaylin took a breath, their chest rising and falling like the gentle swell of the bayou waters. "I stand before you, not just as a warrior returned from the darkness, but as a vessel of our stories, stories that bind us, that teach us to rise from the ashes of despair." The Knowledge Keeper shared with me the tales of our ancestors, their whispers echoing through the trees, urging me to remember who we are. We are our just survivors. We are the heartbeat of this land. Their voice wavered but strengthened, buoyed by the faces of those who had once looked to them for guidance, now looking to them for something more. In the back, A younger villager, Ilara, with wide, questioning eyes, stepped closer. But how could we trust what we did not see? What if the stories have changed, twisted by time along with you? The tension in the air crackled, and Kaelin felt the weight of her uncertainty, an act of their own fears. They clenched their fists at their sides, the coarse leather of their armor grounding them. I cannot claim to have all the answers, Ilara. What I defend is my truth, a truth forged in the fires of regret and resolution. Let us share in the telling together, for it is in our collective memory that we find strength. As Kaelin spoke, the other villagers leaned in, some nodding slowly, understanding flickering of candlelight in their eyes. Edric Clement, a seasoned figure with a commanding presence, stood quietly at the periphery, arms crossed. His deep voice broke the silence, rich and steady. You returned, Kaelin, not just with memories, but with purpose. Would have felt your absence, perhaps it is time. We also share our truths. The rivers of our past run deeper than we know, and only together can we navigate them. Kaelin felt a rush of solidarity at Edric's words, a lifeline tossed into the tumultuous waters of their own self-doubt. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the gathering with a warm embrace as Kaelin and Heartbeat steadied. They looked at Ilara, then back to the community, a swell of determination rising within. Let us weave our stories, one thread at a time. In honoring our past, we will forge a path toward a future woven together. A tapestry of resilience and hope that none can fray. Together, we can reclaim not just our stories but our strength as people. The murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, a chorus of voices rekindling the embers of unity that had long smoldered in the shadows of doubt. The gathering transformed into a collective heartbeat, a pulse of shared histories and aspiration. Kaelin felt the warmth of connection enveloping them, as if the very roots of the cypress trees were intertwining with their ode. But as the villages began to share their stories, one voice rang out above the rest, laden with urgency. Kaelin, the knowledge keeper of bravery, it has been disturbed. The words hung heavy in the air, and an electric chill replaced the warmth of camaraderie. Kaelin's eyes widened, the fierce pride in their heart now mingling with a deep-seated fear, urging them to act. The path ahead was once again shrouded in uncertainty, but they could not turn away, not now. The true test of their resolve was only just beginning.